Double battery size, double storage for double the fun. This is the ROG Ally X, the latest handheld gaming PC from ROG, and I've partnered with ASUS to tell you all about it. So the ROG Ally 1 was one of my favorite pieces of tech of last year, but being a first-gen product from ROG, it wasn't perfect. So ROG have taken feedback from users and have improved it in pretty much every way. Now, this is not an ROG Ally 2, ROG don't claim it to be, but it's one hell of a worthy upgrade. Let's see what you get inside the box and I'll tell you why that is. Now, the unboxing experience is pretty straightforward. You get the ROG Ally X, you likely have some paperwork in the final retail version, and we have a 65-watt charger included, although the Ally X can now support up to 100 watts of charging. The first thing I want to talk about is the battery. As much as I loved the ROG Ally 1 last year, I'd say my biggest complaint was the battery life. Playing a AAA game at 1080p, realistically speaking, you are looking at around a maximum of 1.5 hours of gaming, which isn't great. So to improve the battery life, ROG has literally given us double the battery size, 80 watt hours versus the 40 watt hours on the Ally 1, and that makes it the largest battery in the handheld market. This completely changes the game and means you can game for more than twice as long. In my testing, I could play a AAA game for around 2 hours and 50 minutes to 3 hours at 1080p. And as before, you can extend your gaming by dropping the resolution and frame rate, but it's generally a massive improvement. Now, the natural question is, with the bigger battery, how much heavier is it? Well, surprisingly, not that much. The ROG Ally X weighs around 70 grams more than the ROG Ally 1. It also has better ergonomics overall. Can you feel the weight difference? Side by side, I'd be lying if I said no. I can feel that the Ally X is slightly heavier, but as a handheld gaming device, you'll generally be leaning on something when playing, whether that's the tray table on a plane or a pillow while you're sat in bed. So I'm totally fine with the additional weight for double the battery. I mentioned the ergonomics, and this is especially noticeable towards the bottom. The Ally 1 has harder edges and is flatter, whereas the X is curved and much more comfortable to hold, especially for longer gaming sessions. The Ally X is also thicker, but I think this is a good thing as it gives you some more grip around the handles, and the buttons and joysticks have all been improved too. The joysticks have more tension and tighter springs, and they are now rated for 5 million cycles compared to the 2 million on the ROG Ally 1. The D-pad now has 8-way indicators rather than the 4, and the macro keys at the back are way smaller so you won't accidentally hit them as much. So some big improvements for the design, and now we have this black color instead of the white. Sure, the black is not as striking and looks a bit more generic, but I like it. And I thought the black would show fingerprints compared to the white, but the texture that they've used seems to be pretty fingerprint resistant. What's not fingerprint resistant is the touchscreen, which is expected. So the display hasn't changed. It's still a full HD 120Hz IPS touchscreen with 500 nits brightness and support for FreeSync Premium. It's a nice and sharp display, but of course I would have liked OLED, and I have a feeling that they're saving that for the ROG Ally 2. Another thing that hasn't changed is the processor. We still have the AMD Ryzen Z1 Extreme processor, which is 4 nanometers with 8 cores and 16 threads. Once again, I have a feeling that they're saving the upgrade for the upcoming AMD Strix points for the potential ROG Ally 2 next year. But regardless, the AMD Ryzen Z1 Extreme is a very capable mobile processor and handles every game that you throw at it. What we do have an upgrade on is the RAM, cooling, and storage. The ROG Ally X has 24 gigabytes of LPDDR5X 75000 RAM compared to the 16 gigabytes 6400 RAM on the ROG Ally 1. So not only do we have more RAM, it's faster RAM too. What does that mean for performance? Well, it depends on what you're playing, of course, but I did try running Red Dead Redemption 2 on both, and I was averaging around 4 to 5 frames more per second on the Ally X versus the Ally 1, so that's roughly about a 10% improvement. The Ally X also has an improved zero-gravity cooling system with dual 77-blade fans and more ventilation. This is up from 47 blades on the Ally 1, and it's quieter overall and cooler. It can still get warm to the touch towards the top after a long gaming session, but it's definitely an improvement. And storage, you now have a full-size 1TB M.2 NVMe 2280 Gen 4x4 SSD. It's also pretty easy to access the internal components, so you'll be able to swap it out for a high-capacity drive if needed. And you can always increase the storage with the UHS to microSD 4.0 card slot, which now has a different position. I believe some users had some issues with the micro SD card slot on the Ally 1, so it's nice to see that this has been fixed. The 3.5mm audio combo jack has also moved. It's now next to the power button, which has an integrated Windows Hello fingerprint reader. This works well, but I do find myself looking for it. Not sure if for the next version they can add a texture to it or something, which would make it easier to find when reaching for it. And next to the volume rocker, we have two USB-C ports. One of these is USB 3.2 Gen 2, and the other is USB 4, which is Thunderbolt 4 compatible. This is a big improvement to the one USB-C and XG mobile port we had on the Ally 1. It's no longer proprietary, so you can plug in pretty much any external GPU if you want, and having two USB-C ports means you can plug in any accessories without having to worry about a dongle. Speaking of accessories, one of the cool things about the ROG Ally X is that you can add a mouse and a keyboard, connect this to a screen, and use it as a regular PC. And that's because it has Windows 11. Now yes, Windows 11 still isn't ideal for smaller screens and for touch, but it means, like with the Ally 1, you can play all your games on the ROG Ally X and are not limited to a single library. My personal favorite thing about the Ally X running Windows 11 is that you can run Xbox Games Pass and have access to so many different titles. And what's even better is that you get 90 days of Xbox Games Pass Ultimate for free with the Ally X. It also means that you can get the best deal for your games. If you remember last year, I paid a third of the price for Red Dead Redemption 2 by buying it on Amazon instead of Steam. The other thing to keep in mind is that once you've installed your games, you can just use the Armory Crate to launch them without having to go through the Windows interface. Armory Crate allows you to customize to your heart's content, whether that be the Aura Sync lighting, button layouts, or game profiles. The audio has also been improved. We have two 1-watt front-firing speakers that have slightly larger chambers for louder sound and have smart amp technology, Dolby Atmos, high-res audio, and AI noise cancellation. They sound great to me, but I normally do put on some Bluetooth earphones when gaming on the Ally X. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Following the reported issues with the ROG Ally 1 repairs, ASUS have released a statement and have overhauled their customer service processes, and based on your region, you will get between 1 to 3 years of warranty included. I will link to the ASUS support updates page in the description, which you can take a look at in detail, but I think it is good that ASUS have addressed the concerns and have taken action to provide better support to customers. Finally, price. Well, the ROG Ally X will be retailing for £799 or $799, which is around £100 or $100 more than the ROG Ally 1 Ryzen Z1 Extreme version started at last year, but you are getting double the storage, double the battery, and more RAM along with all of the other improvements. If you're thinking of picking one up or want to find out more, there will be a link down in the description below. And that is the ROG Ally X, an incremental update in some ways, but a solid update nevertheless, with improvements across the board. What do you think of the ROG Ally X? Will you be getting one, or will you be waiting next year for the potential ROG Ally 2? Drop me a comment below, let me know. If you want to see my coverage of the ROG Ally 1 from last year, that video is going to be linked here. And if you're interested in some ROG laptops, you can check out this video here. And if you want to see more videos like this, then do consider subscribing and hit that bell icon. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, then do smash that like button for me. Thanks for watching. This is Saf.